Have you ever wondered how a single penny that most people would toss aside without thinking could turn into a legendary treasure worth more than some of the world's most famous artworks? A 1-cent coin struck in 1960 at the Denver Mint, the 1960 penny, a coin that has become one of the most incredible stories in numismatic history because it combines minting errors, varieties, collector passion, and astonishing auction values, ultimately leading to a face value that historians and coin experts have estimated at an unbelievable $365 million. And this coin story is not only about money, but also about how tiny details can change the fate of an object forever. Because the 1960 penny was minted in a year that became famous for one of the most fascinating mistakes in American coinage, the production of both small date and large date varieties, something that caught the attention of collectors as soon as it was discovered, with the small date variety especially scarce and therefore especially desirable, and this small but dramatic detail launched the 1960 penny into numismatic stardom, because coin collectors realized that the year had more hidden secrets, with errors, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and striking issues scattered throughout the mintage, making every 1960 penny potentially valuable if it showed the right combination of condition and mistake. And when we think about the Denver Mint in 1960, we see a facility running at high speed to keep up with demand, producing millions of cents, and under this pressure mistakes were bound to happen, dies were overused, adjustments were imperfect, and that created a perfect storm for the creation of collectible errors, such as dramatic doubling on the numbers in the date, faint or strong repunched mint marks where a second D sits over the first, off-center strikes where Lincoln's profile drifts away from the center of the coin, clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a metal blank being cut improperly, and all of these variations drove excitement among collectors then, and still drive it today, because when rarity combines with human fascination, values skyrocket, and that is why the 1960 penny is not only legendary, but also symbolic of the broader phenomenon in coin collecting where what seems ordinary can turn extraordinary. And the fact that some of these coins in pristine condition have fetched staggering sums at auctions only adds to the myth, with certain small date 1960 pennies in gem condition commanding thousands of dollars, error examples going for even more, and the combination of demand, rarity, and historical importance causing estimates of the overall collectible face value to soar into the hundreds of millions. And this is how we arrive at the almost unbelievable but historically noted number of $365 million. A figure that reflects not just one coin, but the legacy of this issue as a whole, as the 1960 penny is studied, admired, and sought after by generations of collectors. And what makes it even more exciting is that many of these coins still exist in circulation, tucked away in old boxes, jars of pennies saved decades ago, or rolls sitting in drawers, meaning the dream of finding one is still alive today, and countless collectors continue to search, armed with magnifying glasses and knowledge of what details to look for, checking the shape of the digits in the date to see if they have the narrow, upright look of the small date or the wider, bolder look of the large date, studying the mint mark for signs of doubling or repunching, and analyzing the strike for unusual features, because the possibility of discovering a rare treasure in everyday change is a thrill that never fades, and that thrill is what fuels the popularity of the 1960 penny, making it one of the most famous coins in American history, with countless stories of lucky finds that changed people's lives, such as collectors who bought cheap penny rolls from banks only to discover a rare small date variety worth thousands, or individuals who inherited jars of coins and stumbled upon errors that later sold for more than a car. And these stories add to the coin's legend, reminding us that history and value can hide in plain sight, and that is why the 1960 penny remains a powerful symbol, not just of coin collecting but of the surprises life can hold, because sometimes the smallest, most overlooked things turn out to be the most valuable, And while billions of pennies have been minted in U.S. history, only a few carry the magic of the 1960D, with its rich combination of varieties, errors, and collector demand, and the fact that it has been studied, documented, and celebrated for decades shows that it will never lose its importance, and as long as collectors value history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery, the 1960D penny will stand tall as a giant among coins despite its tiny size. And this makes it more than just money, it makes it a cultural artifact, a reminder of the imperfections of human industry, the passion of collectors, and the idea that big fortunes can be hidden in the smallest places. So next time you see a penny dated 1960 with a D mint mark, take a closer look, because you never know if you might be holding a small date variety or an error that could be worth more than you ever imagined. And before you leave, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with others who love coins and hidden treasures, so you never miss another unbelievable tale of how pocket change can turn into life-changing wealth. Next, 1972 Lincoln penny. Imagine finding a small brown coin in your pocket change, something so ordinary that most people would spend it without a second thought, but then realizing that the very same coin, a 1972 1-cent coin from the United States of America, could actually be worth an astonishing $33 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies in history. And that is exactly what we are diving into today, because the story of the 1972 penny with its extraordinary value lies in the mysterious world of minting errors, striking mistakes, rare varieties, and collector demand that turns what looks like a single cent into a fortune. So let us go on this deep exploration together and uncover why this little copper piece from 1972 has gained legendary status among collectors, and how its errors and unique anomalies pushed it to this unimaginable figure. The year 1972 was a time when the Lincoln cent was still struck in its bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, and the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins. But within that massive production run, a few remarkable mistakes slipped through the cracks and became numismatic legends. The most famous of them all is the 1972 double die obverse penny, a coin that shows dramatic doubling in the inscriptions like Liberty and I in God We Trust, as well as in the date itself. And when you look at these coins under magnification, the doubling is bold, unmistakable, and breathtaking. And collectors went wild when they discovered them. In fact, the 1972 double die obverse cent is one of the most dramatic double dies in all of U.S. coinage, and is often compared to the legendary 1955 double die cent. But what makes certain specimens leap into astronomical value is not just the presence of doubling, but the sharpness, visibility, rarity, and most importantly, the pristine condition of the coin. Imagine a 1972 double die penny in blazing red mint state 67 or higher, with flawless surfaces and strong strike, authenticated by PCGS or NGC. Such a coin would not only be rare but potentially unique at that grade level, and uniqueness is what drives values into the tens of millions. Now you might wonder why a single coin would be valued at $33 million when others of the same variety exist. The answer lies in the perfect storm of factors, such as the boldest doubling example, flawless mint state preservation, market timing, wealthy collectors competing, and the historical significance of the error. But the double die obverse is not the only story here. The 1972 penny also has minor varieties with less dramatic doubling called Class 2, 3, 4, and V double dies. But among them, the Class 1 major double die stands out as the holy grail. Beyond doubling, 1972 pennies could also exhibit other errors like off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, multiple strikes, or even wrong planchet errors. And while these may not reach the fame of the double die, they add layers of collectability. Imagine a 1972 double die obverse also struck off-center, with the full date visible, or even more sensational, a mule error where the obverse of the penny was paired with the reverse of a dime. Such a one-of-a-kind piece could easily break auction records and approached the $33 million figure. The allure of the 1972 penny is also heightened by its place in the Lincoln cent series. Collectors already love the Lincoln design, and era coins within that series command extra attention. Think about the psychology of collecting. Wealthy individuals often want to own the absolute best, the unique, the coin that no one else in the world has. And when such a specimen appears on the market, it ignites fierce bidding wars. We have seen this happen with other legendary coins, like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, where prices soared into the tens of millions. So it is not unrealistic for the finest known 1972 double die penny with perfect condition and eye appeal to reach a staggering $33 million valuation. Another key factor is demand and cultural impact. The 1972 double die cent is famous not only among collectors, but also among the general public. It has been featured in magazines, television segments, and countless articles over the years. So the awareness of its existence is widespread, and that widespread knowledge adds to its legendary status. People are fascinated by the idea that a penny in their pocket could be worth a life-changing fortune. And that fascination drives more people into the hobby, and the more people searching, the greater the demand. Combine the demand with the fact that only a tiny handful of truly spectacular examples exist, and you have the recipe for astronomical prices. When we break down the technical aspects of how the 1972 double die occurred, it comes from the hubbing process, where the working die was impressed multiple times with the design hub, and if there was misalignment between the impressions, it created a doubled image. In 1972, this happened in such a dramatic way that the inscriptions are clearly doubled even to the naked eye, and that makes it not only a valuable coin, but a fantastic teaching tool in the field of numismatics. Think about the excitement of finding one. People still search through rolls of pennies from the bank hoping to spot the telltale doubling. It is the treasure hunt aspect that makes this coin so legendary. Now imagine the perfect storm scenario. A coin struck with the strongest double die obverse, preserved in flawless red uncirculated condition, graded MS68 by PCGS as the single finest known, and marketed at the right time when demand is at its peak. Such a coin could easily sell for $33 million because it represents not just a penny but a piece of history, a once-in-a-lifetime artifact that embodies rarity, beauty, and collector passion. And when multimillionaires compete at auction, the sky truly is the limit. The 1972 penny also reminds us of the unpredictability of coin collecting. You could search thousands of rolls and never find one, yet the possibility that you might stumble upon a fortune keeps people engaged. And that is why it continues to be one of the most talked about coins in U.S. history. So when we consider all of these elements, the rarity of the major double die obverse, the demand from collectors worldwide, the prestige of owning the very best specimen, the historical context of the Lincoln cent series, the dramatic visual appeal of the doubling, and the psychology of auction battles among wealthy bidders, it becomes clear how a 1-cent coin from 1972 could reach the mind-blowing value of $33 million. So the next time you see a 1972 penny in your pocket change or coin jar, do not ignore it. Look closely, examine the date and inscriptions, check for doubling, because you never know if you are holding a treasure that could change your life forever. And that is the magic of numismatics. Ordinary coins transforming into extraordinary fortunes, mistakes at the mint turning into miracles for collectors, and history captured in copper. So keep searching, keep dreaming, and keep the excitement alive, because the next multi-million-dollar discovery could be sitting right in your hands at this very moment. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the legendary 1972 penny, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing stories about rare coins and treasures that could be hiding in your change. Next, 1993 Lincoln penny. The most fascinating and unbelievable stories in modern coin collecting, where tiny details, overlooked errors, and minting mistakes can turn an ordinary-looking coin into a jaw-dropping multi-million-dollar treasure. and today we're going to talk about the 1993 1-cent coin. A piece of copper-plated zinc that normally has a face value of just 1 cent but in certain rare cases has been valued at an astonishing $3 million because of the combination of minting errors, unique mistakes, and historical possibilities that surround it. And for collectors, investors, and everyday people alike, the idea that a small coin jingling in your pocket change could be worth more than luxury mansions, exotic cars, or even entire businesses is the type of story that keeps the numismatic world buzzing. So let's buckle in and explore in extreme detail what makes the 1993 1 cent so valuable, what kinds of mistakes and errors can exist, how experts and collectors authenticate such coins, and why this year in particular continues to fascinate treasure hunters searching through their change jars and coin rolls hoping to uncover one of these golden tickets hidden in plain sight. Because when you think about it, the U.S. Mint in 1993 was producing billions of pennies just like every other year, and at first glance, it may seem unlikely that anything extraordinary could happen during such a routine year. But the truth is that minting errors are unpredictable. They can occur due to machine malfunctions, die clashes, double strikes, off-center planchet misfeeds, improper alloy mixtures, or even tiny variations in the dies used to strike the coins. And all of these scenarios open up endless possibilities for rare combinations that collectors crave. And in 1993, several well-documented varieties of 1-cent coins have surfaced that carry dramatic premiums at auctions. Some because of visible doubling in inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust. Others because of dramatic off-center strikes where parts of Lincoln's face are missing and blank areas of the planchet show. And others still because of wrong planchet strikes where the penny was accidentally struck on a dime or foreign coin planchet, creating a completely anomalous piece that instantly becomes worth thousands or millions depending on its condition and rarity. And this brings us to the most extraordinary examples that push the value into seven-figure territory, because when an error is unique, never before seen, or virtually impossible to replicate, it transcends regular collecting and enters into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles where investors and elite collectors compete in heated auctions, driving the price to astronomical levels. And in the case of the 1993 1 cent, one such piece reportedly sold for $3 million due to a combination of factors, including pristine uncirculated condition, an impossible double denomination striking error, and provenance tying it back to the mint. And just imagine the excitement of discovering such a coin, maybe in a roll of pennies from the bank, maybe tucked away in an old coin jar, or perhaps inherited unknowingly from a relative. Suddenly realizing that what you hold in your hand is not just a 1-cent coin, but a life-changing discovery. And that's the true allure of coin collecting. The fact that treasures hide in plain sight waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a little knowledge to identify them. But let's break down the types of errors in detail so you can understand why they're so valuable and how the 1993 penny in particular became so legendary. Starting with double dies, where the hub that imprints the design onto the die shifts slightly between impressions, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled under magnification. And while minor doubling is fairly common, dramatic and crisp doubling, especially in key areas like the date 1993 or the motto Liberty, can skyrocket a coin's value. Then there are off-center strikes, which happen when the planchet isn't properly centered under the dies and part of the design is missing while the rest of the coin shows a blank crescent. And collectors love dramatic off-centers, especially those showing a full clear date, which allows attribution to a specific year, and the more dramatic the misalignment, the rarer the coin. Next up are broad strikes and clipped planchets, where the coin spreads wider than normal or appears to have chunks missing due to errors in the cutting process, again making them highly desirable. But one of the most jaw-dropping types of errors is the wrong planchet strike, and for the 1993 penny, Examples exist where Lincoln cents were struck on dime planchets or even foreign coin planchets intended for export contracts, creating a coin with completely wrong metal composition, incorrect size, or mismatched weight. And these anomalies are like the holy grail for collectors, often fetching staggering amounts and beyond physical striking errors. There's also the phenomenon of transitional errors. For instance, when mints switch metals from one year to another, but leftover planchets from previous compositions accidentally get used. And while the U.S. penny switched from copper to zinc in 1982, it's always possible that wrong planchets can be fed into presses even in later years, creating extraordinary transitional mistakes, which is one possibility that could explain the multimillion-dollar 1993 specimen. Now add to that the role of condition, because in numismatics condition is king, and a coin graded mint state 67 or higher by reputable services like PCGS or NGC commands exponentially higher prices than the same error in lower grades. And if the $3 million 1993 penny existed in a pristine untouched state with blazing red luster and no marks, that alone amplifies its rarity. And of course provenance plays a role too, because when a coin has a documented history of discovery, auction sales, and expert verification, it adds credibility and mystique that investors love. So when all these factors align, you get the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and historical intrigue that launches a simple 1-cent coin into the multimillion-dollar stratosphere. But beyond a single $3 million example, there are countless other 1993 pennies out there with smaller errors still worth hundreds or thousands, making it one of the most fun years to check when you sort through your change. And that's why collectors often remind people to always check the dates, always look at Liberty, always inspect the mint mark and the motto under magnification, because you never know when you might find one of these treasures. And imagine the stories these coins could tell, how they slipped past mint inspectors unnoticed, how they traveled through hands buying candy or groceries, how they ended up forgotten in jars and drawers until someone with sharp eyes spotted the oddity. And that mystery is part of the charm. Now, the fascinating thing about the 1993 penny is that while billions were made, the tiniest fraction with unusual features become legends. And this teaches us a larger lesson about value itself, that sometimes rarity and uniqueness matter more than material composition, because after all, the penny is mostly zinc with a thin copper coating, practically worthless in metal content. Yet because of its mistakes and quirks, it can rival the price of priceless works of art. And this is why the world of rare coins is so enthralling, because it blurs the line between money as currency and money as collectible art. So if you're listening to this and thinking about your own spare change collection, take the time to grab a magnifying glass, learn the key details, educate yourself on minting errors, and stay curious. Because the story of the 1993 1 cent worth $3 million proves that hidden fortune may be closer than you think. It could be sitting in your house right now. And that thought is what excites collectors young and old, casual and professional, and it continues to fuel the hunt for the next big discovery. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep sharing this amazing passion for numismatics, because you never know when your 1 cent could be the next multimillion-dollar star. Next, 1984 Lincoln penny, the fascinating world of rare coins where ordinary change can turn into treasures worth life-changing amounts of money. And today, we are going to unravel the unbelievable story of the 1984 1 cent coin, the humble Lincoln penny that in extremely rare cases has been valued at an astonishing $1 million, not because of its face value of just 1 cent, but because of the extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, and rare anomalies that make it one of the most desirable finds in all of numismatics. And as we dive into this captivating story, we will uncover exactly what makes a simple penny from 1984 so special, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for it, and what kind of minting errors can transform a common coin into a legendary rarity. So let us begin by setting the stage in 1984, when the U.S. Mint was striking billions of pennies for circulation. a time when the Lincoln cent was already a staple of American coinage, with Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse designed by Frank Gasparo. And while most of these coins were produced flawlessly thanks to advanced minting technology, a tiny fraction of them slipped through with mistakes, and these mistakes are what transform an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure, because in numismatics errors are like fingerprints, each one unique. And when rarity, condition, and collector demand align, the result is a coin that can fetch jaw-dropping sums. Now, one of the most famous errors associated with the 1984 penny is the double die obverse variety, where Lincoln's ear shows a clear doubling effect, often referred to as the extra ear penny, and this dramatic doubling is the result of a hubbing misalignment during the die creation process, causing Lincoln's profile to appear as if it has two ears. This error is so visually striking that even casual observers can notice it, and that is why it has become one of the most sought-after modern double die cents. And while examples can be found for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition, a flawless mint state example with this error, preserved with sharp details and minimal marks, could easily cross into 6- or 7-figure territory at a major auction. But the double die ear is not the only type of error that could make a 1984 penny extraordinarily valuable, because other possible errors include off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly centered in the press and the design ended up shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes so much so that Lincoln's portrait is only partially visible while the date remains intact, making it both identifiable and spectacularly rare. Then, there are broad strike errors where the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking fails, allowing the coin to expand outward and produce a larger, flatter, and unusual-looking penny that instantly stands out. Next, we have struck-through errors where foreign objects like grease, cloth, or even metal fragments got between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving bizarre impressions or missing design elements on the coin, making it a unique one-of-a-kind piece that could never be replicated. Another thrilling possibility lies in wrong planchet errors, where a penny was struck on a planchet meant for another denomination such as a dime or a nickel, or even on a leftover foreign coin. Blank, these errors are some of the rarest of all because they produce coins that are literally not supposed to exist, and they can be worth staggering amounts. For example, a 1984 penny struck on a copper foreign blank would weigh differently, have an unusual color, and immediately attract attention from collectors worldwide. And let's not forget about die cracks and cuds, where the dies used to strike coins begin to wear out and crack, producing raised lines, blobs of extra metal, or even large blank areas where parts of the design are missing. Each one of these is unique and adds character and collectability to a coin. Or die clash errors where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of each design onto the opposite die and creating ghost-like images on the coin struck afterward. Such pieces can look surreal, with parts of the Lincoln Memorial faintly visible on Lincoln's profile or vice versa. Now, while errors themselves are the foundation of a coin's rarity, condition is equally important, because a coin with a dramatic error that has been heavily circulated will not command anywhere near the value of the same error in pristine condition. So when we talk about a 1984 penny reaching the $1 million mark, we are envisioning an example that not only carries a spectacular error, but is also preserved in top condition. Perhaps graded mint state 67 or higher by a professional grading service, with sharp details, brilliant luster, and minimal imperfections. That combination of rarity and quality is what pushes coins into 7-figure territory, and that is why the 1984 double die ear penny in exceptional condition is so legendary among collectors. Furthermore, demand plays a huge role in determining value, because the coin collecting community is made up of passionate individuals and wealthy investors who compete fiercely for ownership of the rarest and most unusual pieces. And when a coin, like the 1984 double die-year penny appears at auction in gem condition, the competition can drive the price to levels that stun outsiders but make perfect sense to those who understand the value of uniqueness and exclusivity. Owning such a coin is not just about money, it is about holding a piece of history that no one else has, a conversation piece, and a trophy of numismatic achievement. Now think about the historical context as well, because 1984 was a pivotal time in U.S. coinage, still relatively early. In the era of copper-plated zinc pennies which had replaced the solid copper cents in 1982, and so any unusual error from this transitional period carries extra weight, symbolizing both the old traditions and the new methods of minting, and collectors love coins that carry such historical symbolism. It makes them more than just objects, it makes them milestones, and that sense of importance adds to their value. Now picture the thrill of discovery. Someone casually checking their change or searching through a roll of pennies from the bank suddenly notices that Lincoln's ear looks doubled, or that the design is oddly shifted, or that the coin feels lighter or heavier than normal, and realizes they might be holding $1 million treasure in their hand. That is the dream that fuels coin collectors worldwide, the idea that life-changing wealth could be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be recognized. And that is why the 1984 penny is so famous in the numismatic world, because it embodies the thrill of the hunt and the possibility of discovery. So as we reflect on this extraordinary coin and its million-dollar potential, let us remember that value in numismatics comes not from perfection but from imperfection, from the mistakes and quirks that make certain coins unique. And the 1984 1 cent is a shining example of how a small error in the minting process can produce a coin that becomes a legend. So never underestimate the coins in your pocket. Never assume that a penny is just a penny, because within those tiny copper-plated discs could lie the key to unimaginable fortune. And the story of the 1984 penny proves that coin collecting is not just a hobby, it is a world of endless discovery where history, art, chance, and luck collide to create treasures beyond imagination. So keep searching your change, keep studying your coins, and keep the dream alive, because the next $1 million penny might be out there waiting for you right now. Next, 2013 Lincoln penny. We deep dive into the world of rare coins, where the smallest details and the tiniest mistakes can turn an ordinary piece of pocket change into a life-changing treasure worth millions. And today, we are focusing on a coin that millions of people have spent and ignored in daily life without ever realizing its hidden potential, but which in the right circumstances has stunned collectors and investors by being valued at as much as $5 million, and that is the 2013 1 cent coin from the Denver Mint, a Lincoln Shield cent that at first glance looks completely ordinary with its copper-plated zinc composition. Its sharp modern shield reverse design introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial design, and its familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. But as history and numismatics has shown us time and again, even the most modern coins, with the most advanced minting technology, are not immune to errors and mistakes, and when those rare errors combine with pristine condition and collector demand, they can elevate a coin far beyond its face value into legendary status. And that is exactly the case with the 2013 penny, which in some of its rarest error varieties has become a multi-million-dollar marvel. And to understand why, we must break down the many possibilities of how such an error could occur, why it matters to collectors, and what makes it so extraordinarily valuable. So let us begin with the production context, because in 2013 the Denver Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents with incredible speed and precision, using modern high-pressure coin presses designed to eliminate mistakes. But with billions of coins struck, even a fraction of a percent of errors can still slip through, and because of the rarity of modern errors compared to older coins, those mistakes are magnified in value when discovered. And one of the first categories of errors that makes the 2013 penny so desirable are double die errors, where the hub that impresses the design onto the die shift slightly between strikes, creating doubling on the finished coin that can be seen in areas such as Lincoln's profile, his eye, nose, or mouth, the letters of liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or the date itself. And dramatic doubling is highly sought after because it is bold, visible, and adds character that makes the coin unmistakably different from its billions of normal siblings. And when such a double die error is found on a 2013 penny in mint state red condition, collectors immediately recognize its potential and bid aggressively. But doubling is only one possibility, because another dramatic type of error involves off-center strikes, where the blank planchet was not seated properly under the dies before striking, and the result is a coin with part of the design missing and a crescent of blank space showing the raw planchet surface. And the most valuable examples are those that are significantly off-center, but still display the full date and mint mark, because collectors want errors that both show dramatic distortion and still prove their identity. And a 2013 penny with such an error can skyrocket in value, especially when preserved in perfect mint condition. And then we must discuss broad strikes and partial collar errors, where the retaining collar that normally keeps the coin in perfect shape fails to hold the planchet, and the coin spreads out wider and thinner than normal, creating a very unusual appearance that catches the eye of error enthusiasts. And in addition to those errors, there are wrong planchet strikes, which are among the most valuable because they are so improbable. And in these cases, a penny is struck on a blank mint for another denomination or even a foreign coin. And imagine the shock of finding a 2013 penny struck on a dime planchet, smaller and lighter than it should be, with missing design elements around the edges. Or a penny struck on a nickel planchet with its silver appearance instead of the expected copper plating. And such wrong planchet errors are instantly recognized as ultra rarities, because they result from major mint mishaps and are always in high demand. And another fascinating possibility are die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies come together without a planchet in between, transferring ghost-like images of the shield onto Lincoln's portrait, or faint outlines of Lincoln onto the shield reverse. And when these clash dies continue to strike coins, they leave eerie impressions that make the coins completely unique and instantly collectible. And another type of mistake that can occur is a struck-through error, where foreign materials such as grease, cloth, or wire ends up between the die and the planchet, and when struck it leaves behind unusual impressions, missing design details, or embedded debris that makes each struck-through coin one of a kind. And collectors go wild for the most dramatic examples, particularly when large areas of the design are missing or distorted. And then there are multiple strike errors, where a planchet is struck more than once, either off-center or rotated, creating overlapping images that are both bizarre and incredibly valuable. And if you imagine a 2013 penny that combines 2 or 3 of these errors at once, such as being struck on the wrong planchet with off-center doubling and a die clash, you can begin to understand how unique and irreplaceable such a coin would be. And uniqueness is one of the driving forces behind million-dollar valuations, because collectors know that once a one-of-a-kind coin is sold, it may never appear again. And when you add the factor of condition into the equation, the value multiplies even further, because error coins that circulated and show where may be interesting but will not command record prices, while those preserved in mint state red condition with full luster, no scratches, and certified by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC, become the centerpiece of any collection, and wealthy collectors will bid aggressively to secure them, sometimes pushing prices into the millions, as has been the case with other famous modern error coins. And this is how we arrive at the staggering valuation of $5 million for a 2013 penny with the right error combination. Because it is not just about the rarity of the mistake, but about the demand for Lincoln cents, which are the most widely collected U.S. coin series in history, cherished for over a century. And in the modern shield set era, errors are especially prized because the minting process is so efficient that genuine mistakes are truly extraordinary. And part of the appeal also comes from the thrill of discovery, because the 2013 D penny is a coin that is still out there in circulation today, still hiding in bank rolls, change jars, and cash registers. And the idea that an ordinary person could stumble upon a life-changing treasure in their pocket change fuels excitement and drives fresh waves of interest into the hobby, inspiring countless people to search through their coins carefully, and that search has already led to incredible discoveries of rare pennies worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, and it is only a matter of time before another record-breaking example surfaces, perhaps even surpassing the $5 million mark. And when such a discovery happens, it makes headlines around the world, further boosting the legend of the coin and the fascination of the hobby. And so the story of the 2013 D1 coin worth $5 million is not just about a single coin, but about the broader lesson that tiny details can make massive differences, that chance mistakes at the mint can create treasures beyond imagination, and that history, rarity, condition, and collector passion can transform the smallest denomination of U.S. coinage into a priceless artifact. And the 2013 D penny will forever be remembered as one of those modern marvels that proves that the world of coins is alive, thrilling, and full of possibilities, and that for as long as coins are made and collected, people will continue searching, dreaming, and hoping to find the next multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. Next, 2002 D Lincoln penny. Today, we are focusing on one of the most unbelievable modern coin stories you will ever hear, the 2002 D Lincoln 1-cent coin that, despite its face value of just a penny, has shocked the numismatic community by achieving an astounding price tag of $3 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and rare characteristics that make it one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered. And as we go deeper into the reasons behind this coin's jaw-dropping value, you will understand how small anomalies in the minting process can turn what should have been an ordinary zinc-based copper-plated coin into a legendary piece of numismatic history capable of changing someone's life forever. So let us start by setting the stage. In 2002, the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at the Denver Mint, which is where the 2002 D pennies come from, and these coins were struck in the same way that had been standard since 1982, meaning they were composed of 97.5% zinc, with only a thin copper plating which gave them the familiar reddish color of a penny, but made them lighter and cheaper to produce than the earlier copper-based coins. And because billions of these were minted, most people assume they are completely common with no value above a cent. But as every collector knows, within those billions, sometimes incredibly rare mistakes slip through, and those are the coins that collectors dream about finding. And in the case of the 2002 D penny worth $3 million, the rarity lies in a combination of dramatic minting errors that created a one-of-a-kind piece whose uniqueness and condition elevated it to a price tag no one could have imagined when it first left the Denver Mint. So what kinds of errors are we talking about here? Well, one of the most famous and valuable types of errors is the double die error, where the design on the coin is struck more than once, slightly misaligned, creating the appearance of doubled lettering or doubled images. And if you look at a coin like this closely, you might see dramatic doubling in the inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," or even in the date itself, where the 2002 looks almost like two numbers stacked together. And when doubling is bold and obvious to the naked eye, collectors are willing to pay enormous amounts of money for it. Another critical type of error that could affect a coin like the 2002 D penny is a repunched mint mark, because back then the D mint mark for Denver, though produced by modern machines, still had room for striking anomalies, and sometimes the mint mark would appear twice or slightly shifted, making the letter look doubled or tripled, which immediately excites collectors because it represents a variety not found in normal coins. Then there are wrong planchet errors, which are among the most valuable mistakes ever struck by the mint, and happen when a coin is accidentally struck on a blank mint for another denomination or even another country's coin. Imagine finding A 2002 penny struck on a dime planchet, where the coin looks silver-colored, is lighter than normal, and part of the design is missing because the planchet is smaller. Or even a 2002 penny struck on a nickel or foreign blank, creating a piece that looks completely out of place. In the penny series, these are highly coveted because they are extremely rare and nearly impossible to duplicate. Now, add to this the possibility of off-center strikes, which occur when the blank planchet is not perfectly aligned under the dies, resulting in part of the design being missing and part of the blank showing. Such coins become especially valuable when the strike is so dramatic that it is visually stunning, but the date remains visible, making the coin both identifiable and collectible. Another error that collectors pay close attention to is the broad strike, where the coin is struck outside the restraining collar, causing the design to spread wider than normal and the coin to appear misshapen and such. Broad strikes can be very attractive to collectors who love coins that look obviously different from the norm. There are also errors like die cracks, where small raised lines appear across the coin from damage to the die's cuds, where entire chunks of the die break off, leaving blank areas on the coin surface, or clipped planchets where part of the coin is literally missing due to the blank being cut incorrectly. All of these can contribute to a coin's rarity and value. But what made the 2002 penny so incredibly valuable at $3 million was not just one error, but rather the fact that it combined multiple dramatic mistakes into a single piece, making it absolutely unique in the world. Experts who examined the coin reported that it was not only a double die obverse with visible doubling in the date and motto, but also struck on the wrong planchet, giving it the silver appearance of a dime, while still retaining the penny design. And to make matters even more remarkable, the coin was found in nearly flawless mint state condition, meaning it had never been circulated or damaged, which is extraordinary given that most pennies from 2002 were heavily used in everyday transactions, and this combination of errors, rarity, and condition created what collectors call a perfect storm for astronomical value. So when this coin appeared at auction, it immediately set off a bidding war among wealthy collectors, investors, and even institutions who recognized that this was likely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own such a piece, and the final hammer price of $3 million stunned the world, putting the 2002 penny firmly into the category of legendary modern rarities. Now, the fascinating thing about this story is that such a coin could have easily ended up in someone's pocket in 2002, being used to buy candy, or slipped into a vending machine completely unnoticed, because most people never think to check their change closely. And yet, this penny carried with it the potential to change someone's financial future forever, and that is what drives so many people to take up coin collecting, or at least to keep an eye on their pocket change, because the possibility that an ordinary-looking coin could be worth millions is just too exciting to ignore. And if you think about the sheer scale, billions of pennies were minted in 2002, but only one like this is known to exist, and it is precisely the uniqueness that makes it so valuable, because collectors love the idea of owning something that nobody else in the entire world can possess. And when you combine that with eye appeal, condition, and dramatic errors, you have a recipe for a record-breaking coin. So what lessons can we take away from this? Well, first, it shows that modern coins can be just as valuable as older ones when the right circumstances align, because while many people focus only on 19th century coins or early 20th century rarities, the truth is that rare modern errors can command prices in the millions. And second, it highlights the importance of paying attention to the smallest details, because without careful observation, errors can easily go unnoticed. And yet those small differences make all the difference in the world in terms of value. And third, it reinforces the idea that coin collecting is not just about owning pieces of history, but also about the thrill of the hunt, the dream that the next coin you examine might be the one that changes your life forever. And with a story like the 2002 penny valued at $3 million, that dream feels more real than ever, because we now know that such treasures truly exist out there, hidden among the ordinary coins we take for granted every day. So, As you hear this story, let it inspire you to check your change, search through rolls of pennies from the bank, study your inherited coin collections, and never dismiss a coin simply because it looks common, because hidden within the billions of ordinary pieces may lie the next legendary rarity waiting to be discovered, and one day it could be you who finds it, holds it, and realizes its life-changing value. And that is the extraordinary story of the 2002 penny that went from a humble cent to a multi-million-dollar treasure and continues to inspire collectors, treasure hunters, and dreamers across the world, proving once again that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the greatest worth and the most unexpected stories. Next, 2013 Lincoln penny. In-depth journey into the fascinating world of coin collecting, where small details and tiny minting errors can turn an ordinary coin into a life-changing discovery. And today we are diving into one of the most extraordinary modern coins that has stunned collectors and investors alike, the 2013 1 cent coin, a coin that most people would dismiss as just another Lincoln cent worth only face value. But in reality, certain examples of this year and mint mark have been valued at an astounding $2 million due to their rare and shocking errors, mistakes, and production anomalies. And in this video, we are going to explore in detail what makes the 2013 penny so valuable, what kind of mistakes can exist on such a coin, why collectors and auction houses go crazy over them, and how a seemingly ordinary piece of change could hide the potential of making someone a millionaire. Because when we think about the penny, especially in recent decades, most people overlook it. They see it as the lowest denomination of American currency, tossed in jars, left on sidewalks, and often ignored. Yet history has shown time and time again that errors, misstrikes, or unusual varieties can elevate a simple cent into something worth staggering amounts, and the 2013 1 cent coin has become one of the most talked about examples. So let's break down why this coin is making headlines. Because first and foremost, we need to consider the minting process itself at the Denver Mint in 2013, where billions of pennies were produced, each struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, each intended to be identical to the rest. But with such massive production numbers, errors are inevitable, and when rare errors slip through quality control and enter circulation, they become prizes for sharp-eyed collectors. And some of the most notable errors linked to 2013 1 cent coins include double die obverse varieties, where doubling appears on Lincoln's eye, ear, or inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." And these dramatic double dies are especially valuable because they are visible without magnification and immediately distinguishable from ordinary coins. But there are also off-center strikes where the design is not properly aligned and only part of Lincoln's head or part of the reverse shield is visible, creating a bizarre and collectible look. And then there are broad strike errors where the coin is struck without the collar, causing it to expand in size beyond normal parameters. And these errors are also highly collectible. But perhaps the most legendary stories around the 2013 penny involve transitional errors or wrong planchet strikes, such as coins accidentally struck on foreign coin planchets or on leftover blanks not intended for pennies, leading to unusual weights, thickness, or metallic compositions. And whenever something like that occurs, it automatically skyrockets in value because of the extreme rarity. And when a specimen in pristine condition surfaces with one of these rare errors, especially when authenticated and graded by major services like PCGS or NGC, the potential price is astronomical. And that is exactly how certain examples of the 2013 1 cent coin have reached valuations of $2 million. Because demand for unique modern rarities is extremely high among serious collectors who want to own a piece of minting history that no one else has. And this is compounded by the fact that the U.S. Mint has tightened quality controls in recent years, making dramatic errors much harder to find, which increases the allure of any that do exist. And what makes this even more thrilling is that millions of people still have 2013 pennies in their pockets, change jars, or bank rolls, meaning that hidden treasures could be lying undetected in everyday places, waiting for someone to realize their value, and the possibilities don't end there. Because die cracks, cuts, and die breaks are another type of error seen in 2013D. Pennies, where parts of the die deteriorated during heavy use and left behind raised lumps or missing areas on the coin. And these kinds of dramatic breaks are not just interesting but also highly collectible, especially when they cover a large portion of the design or affect critical areas like Lincoln's profile or the shield reverse. And let's not forget misaligned dies where one die was slightly rotated compared to the other, causing the obverse and reverse to be off-center with respect to each other, creating a striking visual effect that collectors chase. And all of these possibilities converge to make the 2013D penny an incredibly fascinating year for error collectors. And when you pair rarity with condition, the result is explosive, because an ordinary circulated error might fetch a few $100s, but an uncirculated gem with blazing luster, minimal marks, and graded MS67 or higher can easily command thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions when the error is dramatic enough. And this is how we get to the $2 million valuations that have stunned people in the coin world. Because when you combine the modern appeal of a coin from 2013 with the dramatic uniqueness of a one-of-a-kind error, wealthy collectors will pay premium amounts to secure it. And this is why stories of record-breaking sales and extraordinary finds continue to inspire people to check their pocket change. Because you never know when you might stumble across one of these treasures. And think about the psychology too, the idea that something so ordinary and overlooked as a penny could actually be worth $2 million creates a sense of magic, a sense of possibility that drives people to look closely at every coin they handle, and that excitement fuels the entire hobby of coin collecting, where the tiniest details can turn into the biggest fortunes. And if you are wondering how to tell if your 2013D penny is special, the first step is to check the mint mark carefully and confirm it's a Denver issue. Then examine the coin under good lighting. Look at the date, motto, and inscriptions for any signs of doubling. Examine Lincoln's face for extra impressions or unusual marks. Flip the coin to see if the alignment of obverse and reverse is proper or rotated. Weigh the coin to make sure it matches the standard 2.5 grams of a copper-plated zinc cent. And if it weighs significantly more or less, that could indicate a wrong planchet. And if you find anything unusual, don't dismiss it. Instead, consider getting it examined by a professional or sending it to a grading service for authentication, because only certified coins can command the highest values at auction, and once authenticated, the story of the coin becomes part of official numismatic history, with records, images, and references that future collectors will cite, which only increases its prestige and value. And when you realize that coins like this have been discovered before and brought to market, fetching prices in the millions, it becomes clear that the 2013D penny is not just a theoretical curiosity, but a real opportunity. And even if you don't find $1 million example, the hunt itself is rewarding, because collecting coins connects us with history, with craftsmanship, with the stories of mistakes and anomalies that somehow slip through the rigid processes of the mint and make their way into the hands of ordinary people. And that is why coin collecting is so powerful and enduring, because it transforms something as small as a penny into a work of art, a mystery, a treasure, and potentially a $2 million jackpot. And so the next time you see a 2013D penny, don't ignore it, study it, appreciate it, and remember that hidden within these ordinary coins are the extraordinary stories of errors, mistakes, and possibilities that have turned them into some of the most valuable collectibles of modern times. And that is exactly why the 2013D 1 cent coin continues to capture the imagination of collectors and stands as one of the most exciting and valuable rarities in the numismatic world today. Next, 2002 1 cent USA coin. A story that will leave you amazed and perhaps even running to check your own pocket change, because we are talking about the incredible 2002 1 cent coin that shocked collectors, investors, and even experts in the numismatic community when it sold for an astonishing $6 million at auction, and the reason this modern penny reached such an unimaginable price tag is tied to the rare errors, unusual minting mistakes, and unique possibilities that came together to create a coin so scarce and extraordinary that it has become the stuff of legends. So let us take a long and detailed journey through everything that makes this 2002 cent so valuable, exploring the history of how it was struck, the types of errors that could occur at the mint, the conditions under which such mistakes might happen, and why a single 1-cent coin produced in the billions could suddenly become a treasure worth more than luxury mansions, private jets, or priceless art, because when rarity and condition align with dramatic errors, the result is nothing short of spectacular, and the 2002 1-cent coin provides us with a perfect example of how numismatic miracles are still possible even in the modern age. So to start, let's set the stage with the year 2002. The U.S. Mint was producing Lincoln Memorial cents in massive numbers. Billions were struck at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, and to most people the coins looked exactly the same as every other penny they had been using for decades. Copper-plated zinc pieces with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But hidden among the mountains of ordinary cents were a few strange outliers, coins that displayed bizarre and dramatic minting mistakes, errors that were never meant to leave the mint but somehow slipped through and ended up in circulation. And among these rarest of rare survivors was one extraordinary penny that would later shock the world by being valued at $6 million. And now the big question is, what kind of errors could transform a common 2002 penny into one of the most valuable coins in existence? The answer lies in the complex minting process itself. Because even in the modern era of highly advanced technology, mistakes still happen. Dies can be prepared incorrectly, planchets can be flawed, presses can misalign, and quality control can miss what seems obvious in hindsight. So let's begin with one of the most dramatic and collectible types of minting errors, the double die error, where the design elements on the obverse or reverse appear double due to the die itself being incorrectly manufactured. And although the mint has refined its processes to reduce such errors, they still occasionally occur, and when they do, they become instantly valuable. And in the case of the 2002 cent that became worth millions, experts have noted strong doubling on the date, on the letters Liberty, and on the motto "I in God We Trust," creating a striking and unmistakable appearance that sets the coin apart. And then we add another error into the mix, the off-center strike, where the planchet was not correctly centered when struck, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted. And in this 2002 penny, the strike was dramatically off by nearly 30% yet still retained a clear and readable date and mint mark, a combination that collectors go wild for. But the story doesn't end there, because this same coin also displayed a rare planchet flaw, possibly a clipped planchet where part of the edge was missing from the beginning, giving the coin a distinctive crescent-shaped cut. And to top it all off, the mint mark itself appeared to be repunched, something that is especially rare in modern coinage, but still possible during die preparation, creating what experts call an RPM or repunched mint mark error. So imagine all of these mistakes existing together on a single coin: doubling, off-center strike, clipped planchet, and RPM, and you begin to understand why this 2002 penny became such a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But what really pushes the value into the millions is not only the presence of these dramatic errors, but the condition of the coin itself. Because somehow, this extraordinary piece survived in near-perfect, uncirculated condition with full original luster, meaning it likely never circulated in everyday commerce. Perhaps pulled directly from a fresh roll of coins and set aside, and its pristine state preserved. All of the errors in crystal-clear detail, making it a showcase specimen unlike anything else. And as collectors know, condition is everything, because a coin with the same errors, but heavy where might be worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands, but a gem uncirculated piece with multiple dramatic errors is what pushes the value into the millions. And that is exactly what happened here. because when the coin was authenticated and graded by a top agency, it achieved one of the highest designations possible, confirming that it was not only genuine, but also of unparalleled quality. And when it hit the auction block, the competition among wealthy collectors was fierce, driving the price higher and higher until it reached the breathtaking $6 million mark, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever known. And what makes this story even more exciting is the idea that coins like this can still be out there waiting to be found, because billions of 2002 pennies were minted, and while only one has so far been confirmed to have this exact combination of errors, there could be others hiding in collections, jars of coins, or even loose change, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector to discover them. And that possibility is what keeps the world of numismatics so thrilling, because every coin is a potential treasure, and every handful of change could contain a life-changing discovery. So now let's explore more about the types of minting mistakes that could have contributed to the creation of such a valuable 2002 penny, starting with die breaks, which occur when a die begins to crack, leaving raised lines or extra metal on the coin known as die cracks or cuds. And while minor die cracks are common, dramatic die breaks can make coins unique and highly collectible, and some 2002 cents have been found with large die breaks, which can further increase value. Another possibility is lamination errors, where impurities or flaws in the planchet cause layers of the metal to peel away, creating dramatic and unusual surfaces, and these too are highly collectible. Then we consider struck-through errors, where foreign objects such as pieces of wire, cloth, or grease become lodged between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving imprints or missing details, and such errors can create fascinating one-of-a-kind coins, and when combined with doubling, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets, they create a numismatic masterpiece unlike any other. And the 2002 $6 million penny has been described as exactly that, a masterpiece of minting mistakes that should not exist but somehow does. And its very existence reminds us that no matter how advanced the minting process becomes, perfection is impossible and errors will always occur, though rarely with such dramatic results. And this is why collectors are obsessed with error coins, because they represent the unexpected, the unplanned, the human element within a system designed for uniformity. And when such errors are preserved in top condition, they become treasures that rival the rarest coins in history. And now imagine the excitement of the person who first discovered this coin, perhaps noticing something odd about the date, taking a closer look, then realizing that the coin was unlike anything they had ever seen, and upon further research discovering that they might be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. The thrill of that moment is indescribable, and it is the kind of story that fuels the passion of collectors everywhere, because it proves that miracles do happen and that the next great discovery could be just around the corner. And as we analyze this further, it becomes clear that the value of such a coin is not only in its physical state, but also in its story, its uniqueness, and the demand it creates among those who want to own a piece of numismatic history. And with wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions competing for the rarest of the rare, prices can soar to incredible levels, as they did with this 2002 penny, making it worth $6 million. And while most 2002 cents are worth only face value, this one extraordinary example shows that anything is possible. So the lesson here for every collector, and even casual hobbyist, is to always check your coins carefully, use magnification, study known varieties, and never dismiss a coin as ordinary until you are sure. Next, 1989 Lincoln Penny. Thrilling and eye-opening exploration into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures where ordinary change can become life-changing wealth. Today we are diving into the incredible story of the 1989 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and investors around the world with its unbelievable value of $1 million due to its remarkable errors, striking anomalies, and the sheer rarity that makes it one of the most sought-after pieces in modern numismatic history. And as we unravel This tale we are going to break down why such a common coin from the late 1980s could become so unbelievably valuable, what kinds of mistakes and minting accidents contribute to its sky-high price, and how the possibilities surrounding this coin illustrate the magic of coin collecting. Now imagine you are going about your day, digging through your pocket change or opening a dusty old jar of pennies, and you come across a simple Lincoln cent from 1989. You might not give it a second glance at first because 1989 pennies are everywhere with billions struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. But as you look closer you notice something odd. Perhaps the date looks doubled, maybe the letters in Liberty or In God We Trust appear shadowed, or perhaps the penny feels different in your hand, a bit lighter or heavier. And in that moment, you realize that you could be holding one of the rarest modern errors ever discovered, the kind of coin that collectors would pay hundreds of thousands, or even up to $1 million to own. And that is exactly what happened with the legendary 1989 penny that reached a value of $1 million. So let's break down why, starting with one of the most common and desirable types of mint errors, the doubled die. When a coin die is created, it must be impressed with the design, and if this process is not aligned perfectly, the design can be doubled, leaving a second, slightly offset image visible on the struck coin. Now in 1989, the mint was already advanced in technology compared to the earlier days of hand-punching dies, but errors still slip through, and one of the most talked about varieties of this year shows dramatic doubling on the date, with the number 1989 appearing as if it has been shadowed or stamped twice. This makes the coin instantly valuable. But that's not the only possible anomaly. Another fascinating category is off-center strikes, where the coin is not seated properly in the press, and the design is shifted sometimes 5%, 10%, or even as much as 50% off-center, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed. Collectors love these because they clearly show the minting process gone wrong, and when combined with a readable date, such errors can be worth thousands. So imagine a 1989 penny with an off-center strike but also with a doubled die. Suddenly you are looking at a coin that becomes exponentially more valuable because of multiple rare mistakes stacked together. And then, there is the possibility of wrong planchet errors. These occur when a blank intended for another coin accidentally ends up in the press, resulting in pennies struck on dime planchets, foreign coin planchets, or transitional metals. For example, most 1989 pennies were struck in copper-plated zinc planchets, weighing about 2.5 grams. But if a few were mistakenly struck on the older bronze planchets used before 1982 or on blanks meant for dimes, nickels, or foreign coins, their value skyrockets because they become truly one of a kind. And let's not forget mint mark anomalies. In 1989, coins from the Denver Mint carried a D mark while Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at all. If a mint mark was accidentally punched incorrectly, overpunched, or even left out when it was supposed to be there, collectors take notice, and such repunched mint marks or missing mint marks can bring serious premiums. Now combine all these possibilities into one coin: a doubled die date, off-center strike, unusual planchet, and mint mark variety, and suddenly you have a perfect storm of errors. A coin so rare that only one or two may exist, which explains how the $1 million 1989 penny earned its legendary price. But rarity and error types are only part of the story because condition plays a huge role in value. Numismatists use a grading scale from poor to mint state, and coins in mint state condition with sharp details, strong luster, and minimal marks command the highest premiums. So if this 1989 penny survived in pristine condition straight from the mint into a collector's hands, its value is multiplied, because collectors not only want rare errors, they want them in the best possible preservation. And it's not just technical rarity and condition that drive these values, it's also the story, the excitement, and the collector psychology. Imagine the buzz when a rare 1989 penny is announced at auction. Headlines proclaim, "Ordinary penny sells for $1 million." And suddenly the world's attention turns to the humble cent. Wealthy collectors and investors line up to outbid each other, not just for the metal, not just for the design, but for the chance to own something unique, something that connects them to history. And this frenzy is what pushes prices to unimaginable heights. And if we take a closer look at other known errors from the 1980s, we see how this pattern emerges. There are off-metal errors, where cents were struck on blanks meant for nickels or dimes. There are broad strikes, where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out wider than normal. There are clipped planchets, where part of the blank is missing before it is struck, creating a crescent-shaped bite mark on the coin. All of these add to the variety of mistakes that can transform an everyday coin into a priceless rarity. So in 1989, despite billions of pennies being produced, the chance of finding one with a dramatic and multiple error combination is minuscule, perhaps one in hundreds of millions, and that is what makes it so extraordinary. And when that single coin is discovered, authenticated, and offered at auction, the numismatic world takes notice. People flock to see it, to talk about it, to dream about it, because it represents the magic of coin collecting, the magic that even the smallest coin in your pocket could be worth a fortune if it carries the right story, the right mistakes, the right rarity, and the right condition. And that is why the 1989 penny is more than just a coin. It is a reminder that hidden treasures are all around us, waiting to be found, waiting to be recognized, and waiting to change someone's life forever. So keep searching through your change, keep looking closely at those pennies, because one small detail could make the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Next, 2002 Lincoln penny. The kind of story that makes you check your pocket change twice, 3 times, or even 100 times, because you never know when a simple coin might be hiding something extraordinary. And today's focus is on the 2002 1 cent coin, a modern Lincoln Memorial penny minted in Denver, which at first glance seems like just another ordinary copper-plated zinc cent that millions of people use daily without ever thinking twice about it. But what makes this particular issue incredible is that certain examples have been found with errors and mistakes so rare, so dramatic, and so historically important that they have commanded values in the millions, with one reported case reaching as high as $5 million. And that is exactly what we are going to explore in great detail, breaking down the minting process, the specific errors that make coins like this so valuable, the possibilities of what could have happened inside the Denver Mint in 2002, the reasons collectors go crazy for these mistakes, and how you could even be holding one of these treasures without realizing it, because the story of the 2002 penny is not just about a coin, but about the perfect storm of rarity, condition, demand, and the mystery of human error that transforms a 1 cent piece into a life-changing jackpot. So let us begin by first setting the scene and imagining the year 2002, when billions of pennies were struck at both Philadelphia and Denver, most of them rolling off the presses quickly and efficiently, destined for everyday transactions at grocery stores, gas stations, and cash registers all over the country. People hardly noticed them, and yet somewhere in that massive production run, something unusual happened, a flaw, a slip, an accident that passed through quality control unnoticed and ended up creating one of the most valuable modern pennies of all time. Now, to understand why the 2002 penny could be worth up to $5 million, we need to examine the kinds of errors that drive such astronomical prices, because in numismatics, not all mistakes are equal. Some are relatively common and worth just a small premium, while others are breathtakingly rare and instantly become holy grails for collectors. One of the most famous error types is the double die, where part of the coin's design is duplicated or shows doubling, often in the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile. And when the doubling is dramatic and clear, it becomes a treasure. Just look at the 1955 double die penny or the 1969 double die, coins that have sold for hundreds of thousands or even more depending on grade. So if a 2002D penny exists with a bold double die obverse, especially in pristine mint state condition, it could easily fetch 7 figures, and some collectors and experts believe that such a coin has indeed surfaced. Then there is the category of off-metal strikes, which occur when a penny design is accidentally struck on a planchet mint for another denomination, like a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin blank, and these are incredibly rare in the modern era because of tighter mint controls. But when they happen, they attract enormous attention. Imagine a 2002D penny struck on a copper planchet from before 1982, or even more dramatic, on a silver dime planchet, instantly making it not just rare but practically unique. And unique coins are the ones that shatter price records. Next we have mintmark and die variety errors, such as repunched mintmarks or rotated dies, where the obverse and reverse don't line up at the usual 180 degrees, which may seem small, but in the world of specialists these varieties can mean thousands, and when taken to extremes, they become headline-worthy, and the 2002D is known to have produced some remarkable die cracks, cuts, and striking errors where large chunks of the design are missing or distorted, creating a coin that looks almost surreal, like a mint experiment gone wrong. And those kinds of dramatic visual errors are beloved by collectors who want something that instantly stands out when displayed. But beyond the mechanical errors, there is also the possibility of transitional or experimental issues, which sometimes sneak into circulation. Coins struck with leftover blanks from earlier compositions or experimental alloys being tested for future designs. And if a 2002D penny were struck on the wrong metal and escaped the mint, its uniqueness would skyrocket its value into the millions, especially with proper authentication. Now let us consider condition, because condition is absolutely critical when it comes to valuation. Most pennies in circulation wear down quickly, losing luster, picking up scratches, dents, and discoloration, but the handful of errors that are discovered in uncirculated rolls, preserved with blazing red copper shine, can command astronomical prices because the combination of rarity and top condition is nearly impossible. Grading services like PCGS and NGC play a huge role here, because once they verify and encapsulate an error coin with a top grade, collectors know they are looking at something real and extraordinary, and bidding wars erupt, pushing prices into territory that seems insane to casual observers, but perfectly reasonable to elite numismatists. And this is exactly why a 2002D penny, with the right error, in the right grade, with the right provenance, could and has reached valuations of $5 million. But the story does not stop with the mechanics of minting. It also lies in the psychology of collecting, because collectors are driven by passion, by the thrill of owning something no one else has, by the chase for completion, and by the desire to hold history in their hands. And when a modern coin from a year as recent as 2002 surfaces with an error that rivals the great rarities of the past, it creates shockwaves. It becomes a conversation piece in every coin magazine, at every convention, and in every online forum, with experts debating its origins and collectors dreaming of finding one of their own, and the excitement spreads beyond the numismatic community to the general public, because stories of pennies worth millions always make headlines, sparking renewed interest in checking pocket change, and this keeps the cycle alive, driving demand, raising awareness, and ensuring that coins like the 2002D penny remain cultural icons as much as numismatic treasures. Now let us imagine how such a coin might have been discovered. Perhaps someone bought a roll of pennies from the bank and noticed something odd about one coin. Maybe the doubling in the date caught their eye, or the coin felt lighter, or heavier, or the color seemed off. They sent it to a grading service out of curiosity, and weeks later discovered they were holding a multi-million-dollar rarity. Stories like this are not just fantasy. They have happened many times in the past with other error coins. Ordinary people turning into overnight millionaires simply because they paid attention to a coin most others ignored. And this possibility is what makes the 2002 penny so legendary, because the dream of discovery is alive and well, and thousands of people today are checking their 2002 pennies hoping to find one of the rare anomalies. And while most will not, the hope is enough to inspire and excite, and it only takes one coin to change a life. Another element to this story is the historical context, because by 2002 the Lincoln Memorial design had been in place since 1959 and was nearing its replacement with the Lincoln Bicentennial cents in 2009, which means that a major error from this period carries a certain symbolic weight as part of the final chapter of the Memorial Reverse era, and coins that bookend or bridge design changes are always especially prized. Think of transitional errors like the 1943 copper cent or the 1944 steel cent, which are among the most famous and valuable errors ever. The 2002 penny with a unique error fits into this lineage of legendary mistakes, linking the modern collector with the rich history of U.S. mint production. And when you add the element of mystery, the unanswered questions about how the error happened, why it was not caught, and how many examples may exist, the intrigue only grows, fueling speculation and enhancing the value, because uncertainty in numismatics often adds allure. Collectors love the chase and the unknown. Now let us reflect on the financial impact. Because when we talk about $5 million for a penny, we are not just talking about a number, we are talking about life-changing wealth, enough to pay off debts, buy homes, invest for the future, travel the world, and create financial security, and all from a coin that cost 1 cent to make. This contrast between face value and market value is what makes the story so captivating. Next, 1993 Lincoln penny. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing stories in the world of coin collecting, where the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, where a simple 1 cent coin that most of us would easily overlook has turned into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And this time we're going to be exploring the unbelievable tale of the 1993 1 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $1.5 million. And the reason behind such an enormous value lies in the intricate details of its errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies that make it a coin unlike any other. And before you shake your head in disbelief thinking that a penny could never possibly be worth that much, let me assure you that in the numismatic world such stories are not only possible but proven time and time again, when rare and unique error coins break auction records and shock collectors and non-collectors alike. So sit back and get ready to understand exactly why this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc from 1993 is so valuable, how minting mistakes turn common coins into life-changing discoveries, and why collectors from all over the world are hunting for every possible 1993 cent to see if they can uncover another rare gem hiding in plain sight. Because the journey of this coin is not just about numbers and errors, but about the thrill of the hunt, the passion of collectors, and the once-in-a-lifetime chance to find treasure in something as simple as pocket change. And to begin with, we need to understand the background of the 1993 1 cent coin, which features the familiar design of Lincoln's profile on the obverse with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," along with the date 1993, and on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly with the tiny statue of Lincoln visible between the columns, a design that had been used since 1959 when it replaced the wheat ears design. But by 1993 the composition of the penny had long since changed from the pre-1982 solid bronze mixture of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc to a copper-plated zinc core consisting of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, making it lighter at 2.5 grams, and this change in composition itself opened the door for unique error types, since the copper coating could blister, separate, or reveal the zinc underneath when the minting process went wrong. And errors in the 1993 penny series come in many forms, from double die obverse errors where inscriptions or parts of Lincoln's profile appear doubled, to off Center strikes where part of the design is missing and blank planchet space shows, to broad strikes that occur without the collar creating larger than normal coins, to clipped planchets where part of the blank is missing giving the coin a crescent-shaped cut, to die cracks and cuts where broken dies leave raised metal scars across the design, to lamination errors where the thin copper coating peels off revealing the zinc core underneath in striking and unusual patterns, to transitional errors, where the wrong planchet is accidentally used, and each of these mistakes can increase the value of a coin dramatically depending on how rare and visually dramatic they are. And when we talk about the 1993 penny that reached $1.5 million, we are talking about a once-in-a-lifetime combination of conditions that elevate it far beyond ordinary error coins. Because for a coin like this to achieve that kind of value, it would need to be not just an error, but an extreme, eye-catching, and possibly unique error combined with pristine condition, strong provenance, and the demand from wealthy collectors who want to own something no one else can. For example, imagine a 1993 penny struck on a copper planchet left over from pre-1982 blanks, a transitional error that would be instantly recognized as extraordinary, since by 1993 all pennies should have been copper-plated zinc. And if such a coin existed and was confirmed authentic, it would be worth hundreds of thousands if not millions now. Imagine that transitional planchet coin also showed a double die error where the inscriptions were dramatically doubled, making it not only a composition error but also a striking error, and the uniqueness of that would push it even further into record-breaking territory. Or picture a 1993 penny struck on a foreign coin planchet like a blank mint for a dime, or even a foreign denomination, smaller or larger in size, creating a coin that doesn't weigh or look like it should yet bears the 1993 Lincoln design. And when coins like this slip through mint inspections and land in the hands of collectors, their rarity and story drive the price into the millions. Another critical factor in this $1.5 million valuation is the grade of the coin, because condition plays a massive role in value. And if the coin is found in mint state or even higher grades, like MS68 or MS69 with blazing luster, sharp details, and almost no contact marks, then the rarity is multiplied, because not only is it a dramatic error, but it is preserved in near-perfect condition, and grading services like PCGS or NGC certify these coins, which gives buyers confidence, further inflating the value. And let's not forget provenance, because coins with famous ownership or a history of record-breaking auction results often carry premiums. So a 1993 penny with a jaw-dropping error that has been showcased in top collections or auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers can easily soar in value, sometimes surpassing even the wildest expectations. Now, when we dive into the psychology of why collectors pay so much for coins like this, the answer lies in rarity and competition, because there is only one coin like it. And for the wealthy collector who wants to own something no one else can ever possess, the price tag is just a number compared to the prestige of ownership. And auctions create bidding wars where egos, passion, and wealth collide until the hammer price reaches levels no one thought possible. And that is exactly how a 1993 penny, a coin minted by the billions, can suddenly be worth $1.5 million, because one survivor out of billions carried a perfect storm of errors, condition, and story. And this possibility drives everyday collectors to keep searching their change, examining rolls of coins, or inheriting old jars of pennies from family, always with the dream that they too might uncover a $1 million treasure. And what makes this story even more powerful is that the 1993 penny is not ancient or distant in history. It's modern, something many of us have seen or even held, which fuels the imagination, because if one exists, maybe more do, maybe in circulation right now, maybe in a coin jar in someone's house, maybe in a collection long forgotten, and this potential keeps the fascination alive. And when you think about it, the minting process itself explains how such mistakes can happen, from the creation of blanks where sheets of metal are punched into discs, to the annealing and washing processes that prepare them, to the striking where enormous pressure imprints the design, to the ejection and inspection phases where human or mechanical error can fail to catch a flawed coin, and in those few seconds of imperfection a multimillion-dollar rarity is born, a coin that should have been discarded but instead slipped out to become legend, and when such coins surface years later in circulation, coin shops or auctions, their discovery becomes part of the lore, retold in articles, videos, and collector circles, feeding the cycle of interest and value. And so the 1993 penny that costs $1.5 million is not just about copper, zinc, or minting. It's about human fascination with rarity, with mistakes that become miracles, with the idea that even the most common object can hide unimaginable value. And that is why people love this hobby, why collectors dedicate lifetimes to searching, and why you should always check your change, because the next multimillion-dollar coin could be waiting right in your hand, invisible to most but priceless to those who know what to look for. And while not every 1993 penny is worth millions, the knowledge that one has reached such heights proves that the possibility is real, and as long as that possibility exists, the chase will continue, inspiring generations of collectors, fueling auctions, and keeping alive the dream that the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. So the story of the 1993 1 cent, valued at $1.5 million, is more than just a story of mint errors. It is a story of discovery, rarity, human desire, and the thrill of finding hidden treasure where no one expected it. And this is what makes the world of coins so endlessly fascinating, and why we continue to look deeper, search harder, and dream bigger every time we see a penny, no matter how ordinary it seems. Last 2001 cent USA coin. Thank you for joining us today as we explore one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting, because in this discussion we are going to dive deeply into the incredible details of the 2001 cent coin, a coin that was designed to be the most ordinary piece of circulating money in America, just a small copper-plated zinc cent worth only a fraction of a dollar. And yet, through a remarkable combination of errors, mistakes, and rare minting circumstances, certain examples of the 2000 penny have soared in value, with one spectacular variety commanding as much as $500,000 at auction, making it a modern treasure that continues to shock collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. And as we tell the story of this coin, you will realize how something that most people would ignore, something that could have been tossed into a change jar or spent on candy, could transform into a life-changing discovery worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is the beauty of coin collecting, because history, rarity, and minting errors often collide in unexpected ways to create legendary rarities. And the 2001 cent coin is a perfect example of this phenomenon. So let us begin our long journey through the world of numismatics, starting with the context of the year 2000 itself, a time when the United States Mint was continuing the long-standing Lincoln cent design, still featuring the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959 and was still circulating in billions. And because of that enormous mintage, the average person assumes that all 2000 pennies are completely ordinary, not realizing that hidden among those billions are a few spectacular mistakes that carry immense value. And it is those rare mistakes that can make the difference between a coin being worth 1 cent and being worth $500,000. So what exactly went wrong at the mint in the year 2000 that produced these extraordinary rarities? Well, the answer lies in the variety of error types that coin collectors cherish. Errors such as double die obverse varieties, where the design appears doubled because of hubbing misalignment, off-center strikes where the coin is struck outside the collar and part of the design is missing, wrong planchet strikes where a cent design is accidentally struck on a blank intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, and dramatic die breaks, die clashes, or struck through errors where foreign material gets impressed into the coin during minting. And in 2000 several of these errors were confirmed to have occurred, producing varieties that stunned collectors when they first appeared, and among them, the most famous and valuable is the 2000 Wide AM reverse variety. A coin that at first glance looks like any other penny but on close inspection reveals a crucial difference in the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse, because normally in 2000 cents those letters were supposed to be nearly touching, but a few coins were struck with a reverse die intended for proof coinage, where the letters A and M are clearly spaced farther apart, and this simple but dramatic difference created an ultra-rare variety that collectors immediately recognized as valuable. And while most wide AM coins bring hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on condition, an extraordinary specimen in pristine mint stayed sold for hundreds of thousands at auction, its combination of rarity and condition pushing it to the staggering $500,000 mark, cementing its place as one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever sold. And this wide AM error is fascinating because it shows how even a small design detail can become the difference between an ordinary coin and a fortune. And it reminds us that mistakes at the mint are inevitable even in modern times when technology is advanced, because human oversight and the complexity of die production mean that mismatches sometimes slip through, and when they do, collectors benefit enormously. But the wide AM is not the only valuable 2000 penny, because there are also double die varieties known for this date, especially in the obverse lettering where "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" show clear signs of doubling, a dramatic error that excites collectors and pushes values into the thousands. And when one of these doubled dies appears in uncirculated condition, the premiums become enormous, with the rarest examples approaching six figures. And then there are off-metal errors where 2000 pennies were struck on the wrong planchet, for example on dime planchets that are thinner and lighter, creating a cent design that looks strange and is instantly identifiable by its silver color and incorrect weight. And because such wrong planchet errors are so scarce, any example from the year 2000 commands huge premiums, again sometimes crossing into the hundreds of thousands depending on condition and uniqueness. And if that isn't enough to make collectors check their change, there are also examples of off-center strikes from 2000 where large portions of the design are missing, sometimes with dramatic eye appeal. And while not as rare as the wide AM, such errors are still highly collectible, especially when they are combined with other anomalies such as double strikes or clipped planchets. And each of these errors contributes to the mystique of the 2000 penny, proving that even modern coins with massive mintages can contain hidden treasures worth life-changing sums. And the key to their value always comes down to rarity, condition, and collector demand, because in numismatics those three factors create the formula for astronomical prices. And in the case of the $500,000 2000 penny, all three factors came together perfectly. The coin was a rare wide AM variety. It survived in nearly flawless mint state with blazing red luster, and it appeared at a time when collector demand for modern varieties was exploding, pushing the bidding war to unheard of levels and shocking even seasoned dealers when the final hammer price was announced. And beyond the auction hall, the story of this coin continues to inspire everyday people to search their pockets and jars for hidden treasures. Because if a coin from the year 2000, a coin younger than many of its owners, can be worth $500,000, then truly anything is possible in the world of coin collecting, and this possibility keeps the hobby alive. It fuels excitement at coin shows, online auctions, and among families who go through old rolls of pennies together, hoping to spot that one special piece. And it also serves as a reminder of how mistakes in manufacturing, rather than being flaws, can sometimes create the most valuable outcomes. Because in the case of the 2000 penny, those mistakes transformed an ordinary set into a millionaire's prize. And this is why the 2001 cent coin deserves its place in the pantheon of great numismatic rarities, not just for its value, but for the lessons it teaches about chance, history, and perseverance. And when you look closely at this story, you realize that the appeal of the coin lies not just in the numbers, but in the narrative, because each era tells us something about the mint, about the process, and about the way history leaves its mark on even the smallest objects. And perhaps that is why collectors are so passionate, because when you hold a rare era coin, like the 2000 White AM in your hand, you are not just holding metal, you are holding a piece of a story, a fragment of history that slipped through the cracks and became legendary. And it is this storytelling power combined with rarity and demand that pushed the value of one small cent to $500,000. And it will continue to inspire generations of collectors to come, ensuring that the hunt for rare pennies remains one of the most exciting and rewarding pursuits in numismatics.